So there she is, dead on the ground, right? Okay, now I'd had her, because of the incidents that she'd had before, I'd had her travel with a companion. And so when these voodoo people showed up, her companion ran to get the elders of the church, or the men of the church. But, so there she is, there's her body laying in the ground, and her spirit is out of her body and looking for help. And so she told me later, she said that her spirit went, who she is spiritually, right? Went looking, talking to people, come and help me, and of course they couldn't hear her, they couldn't see her or anything. So she went back to her body, and she got down by her body, and she started to pray, and she told the Lord, she says, Lord, I want to serve you. And she says, I don't want to be dead now. My husband needs me, my people here in Africa need me. Please, can I go back into my body? And she said, as she prayed fervently for that, she said that it was a light that came up from behind her and touched her body and warmed her body, and she was able to get back into her body. And shortly thereafter, the men from the church came and found her and took her to the hospital. And and I got a call from her, and she was in pain, and she was telling me that she was in pain, and I said, are you all right? She says, no, I'm not all right. I said, I was just beat, and it hurts, and like that. And then suddenly the line went dead, and then I found out later that she fell into a coma. Well, anyway, so this is a lot of this stuff, except for the phone call, which I was there to receive, okay? I didn't know about everything else that happened until later when she told me what happened. So she said that when she fell into this coma, that an angel came to her and told her to follow him, and he took her up. And she said that she went through various levels of people. There were people at different levels. But they were all, these are her impressions. These are what things that she told me what it was like when she was going up to the throne of God. And she was talking about, rejoicing that no matter which level people were at, they were rejoicing, and they were rejoicing mightily. It was a happy place. It was a wonderful place to be. And she went up into the throne of God. Okay, and she met Jesus there, and Jesus was talking to her and told her many things, and she was able to meet many of the prophets that we read about in the Bible, and the apostles and so on, and and all of the many righteous men that that we know about from history. Well, anyway, so I said, okay, well, describe what you saw at the throne of God. And she said, well, there were like 24 men. She said there was a group of men. And I said, how many men? She said, about 20. I said, what about 24? And she thought about it. She said, yeah, that sounds about right, about 24 men. And they sat on their own thrones, she said. And I said, what else did you see? And she said, well, I saw these strange beasts, and one of them had the face of like a cow, and one of them had a face of a lion, and one of them had a face of a man, and one of them had a face of a bird. And she said, and they were covered with eyes and with wings. And I said, okay, and so, and I'm telling her, well, tell me more about it. She said, well, the most wonderful thing is, she said, well, the noises. She said it was like thunder and just like electrical, cracking and so on. It's just wonderful noises. And then she said, and then the beasts were saying, she said it not exactly the same words, but she's saying is that holy, holy Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come, and she, she's volunteering information. I said, have you ever read, because I know we hadn't studied the book of Revelation yet. I said, have you ever read the book of Revelation? She says, no, because I started to, but I didn't understand any of it, so I didn't follow through. There were other books a lot easier to understand than that book. And I said, well, you're describing exactly heaven, the throne of God, the way that John described it in chapter 4. So, if it was, when somebody volunteers information, it's experience. I wasn't prompting her to say anything. I just maybe only to say, what all did you see? Like I prompted her about the number of seats. She said, around 20, and it actually turns out to be 24, right? So, where John went to is a real place. The throne, that's a description, a true, real description of the throne of God. So, but anyway. So after 3 days, she was in coma for 3 days, and so after the 3 days, the angel took her back down to her body, because in the meantime, the angels had been repairing her body so that when she went back, she didn't have to suffer for 3 days. Do you see what I'm saying? She was, because of this coma and the angels repairing her body, so when she went back into her body, it was virtually healed. And so they kept her in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and then they let her go, and then she wrote to me and told me about everything that had happened. Okay. And anyway, she's had a lot of other experiences. She's been persecuted. This was the first time that they killed her. She's been, one other time she was shot, and the bullet was close to the heart, but she survived that, and that's another story. If anybody's interested, I like to tell more stories about her, but she almost died. But I was able to send a blessing to her, and she was healed from that. And that's a really interesting story. But another day, I'll tell more about that one. But then another time, she was on an errand for the Lord, and then a man came out and shot her 5 times in the chest. And the angels kept her body alive, but her spirit left her body again, and she went back up to the throne of God and talked with the Lord. And there was one other time when she was poisoned to death and went to be with Jesus for a few days, and then she came back to life. So the thing that's curious to me is why she keeps coming back, but in her spirit she knows that she has a important mission to fulfill on the earth, and she wants to fulfill her mission here on the earth. So, but anyway, we talk about valiant in the testimony of Jesus. This is the most valiant woman in the testimony of Jesus that I have ever heard about. Sometimes I think she puts my valiant in the testimony of Jesus to shame because of her, because of her determination to serve the Lord at any cost, and she's not afraid of whatever men can do to her. But anyway, so that's the first part of the book of Revelation, which is about the angels, about John's mission and so on, and what John saw. Okay, so starting in verse 5, it talks about a sealed book, and I think I'm going to save this teaching for another day. I could probably start this. I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaim with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" And no man in heaven nor on earth, neither under the earth, nor was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept, because no man was found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look upon it. And one of the elders said unto me, "Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, to loose the 7 seals thereof. And behold, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood the Lamb who had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent forth unto all the earth." Okay, so talking about Jesus. And okay, and so what is the book? The book is the history of the world from Adam until the end of the millennium. It's the history of the world. And